As they said in the film, Back to the Future, where we're going, we don't need roads.
Oh, please, what have you done now?
Wait a minute, Doc. Are you telling me that you built a time machine? Out of a DeLorean?
My calculations are correct. When this baby hits 88 miles per hour, you're gonna see some serious shit. Next Saturday night, we're sending you back to the future.
What's up, everybody? Welcome to Back to the Future, the podcast, the only podcast looking back in time at the greatest film trilogy of all time, Back to the Future. I am your friend in time, Brad Gilmore. Whew, those intros are getting a little winded for me. Hey, I am doing a little bit of work on my MacBook computer. I got my Rode handheld microphone here for you, recording this on my iPhone. I wanted to break in. I did a little interview with my man, Mr. Hughes, is what I call him. It's the Hughezy Hello is the name of his show. He's over there in Ireland. I'm not exactly what city or what province. I don't really know much about Ireland, although that's where my people are from and that's where the McFlys are from. But he's over there in Ireland, and I've been on his show before. He hit me up on Twitter and said, hey, will you come on the show and talk Back to the Future? I said, yeah, absolutely. This is the first time I've actually ever been asked, believe it or not, to come on someone else's show and talk about Back to the Future. So very excited that I got to do this, and I wanted just to take, it's only like, I don't know, 5 or 6 minutes. It's a real small, short little interview, but I thought that it'd be something that I'd like to share with all the Back to the Future, the podcast listeners. He's a great guy, and while I'm working here on season 6, I'm already thinking in the future. As I'm working on season 5, I'm literally working on it right now on my computer. I thought, you know what, let me share this with all the pinheads out there. By the way, did that time capsule the other day. I'm going to be honest with you, pinheads. I'm a little disappointed. I'm just a little disappointed. I haven't heard much from you all in regards to the Back to the Future Trivia League or for the Back to the Future content creation that I'm looking to do with my new venture website / YouTube channel. So make sure you email me over there. I've heard from some of you before. I've heard from you before in the past. People in the UK, people in Ireland, people all over this great United States. I've heard you before. So chime in. BradGilmore11@gmail.com. If you want to get more involved, if you want to do podcasts, if you want to write articles, if you want to make videos about Back to the Future, hit me up. Let's do it. Let's make it happen. If you put your mind to it, you can accomplish anything. It's good advice, Marty. But check this out from Hughezy on the Hughezy Hello.
Hello. But yeah, so anyway, Brad, thanks for coming back on. And what people may not know, or maybe they do know, is that you also run a Back to the Future themed podcast, as well as Reality of Wrestling and Heated Conversations with Booker T. Here's the question that I've got for you about Back to the Future, and you've probably got this one before, but it's always stuck with me. Why is it called Back to the Future when they only ever go to the future once in the second film?
Right. Okay. Valid question. I appreciate you, Mr. Hughes. Which, by the way, has anyone ever told you have a striking resemblance to the Mr. Hughes manager, pro wrestling manager from back in the day? You look just like him. I don't know if anyone's ever. You look identical to him. But anyway, everyone go Google Mr. Hughes WWF. Looks just like my man right here. But anyway, to answer your question, Back to the Future. So the title comes from this. It is when Marty McFly in the first movie goes to 1955. He goes to the past where his parents are. His goal from then on back is to get back to the future being 1985. Now, people have argued that he's not going to a future. He's going to back to his present, and I understand that. But it's definitely he's going from 1955, and he needs to get back to 1985. 1985 is the future from 1955.
But maybe Marty McFly is so dumb because of the incest in the story.
Right. Okay. Yeah. You know what's funny is so these movies I love. Obviously, that's why I host a podcast about them. And I discovered them when I was real young. And I grew even closer to them because my grandmother, who passed away 2 years ago this November, died from Parkinson's disease. And Michael J. Fox famously has Parkinson's disease. And I've even grown closer to these movies because of that, right? And I feel that Michael J. Fox has done so many great things, especially here in the States, but worldwide when it comes to Parkinson's research. I actually wear a Team Fox bracelet. I don't know if you can see that on camera. And it goes out there to help spread the word about Parkinson's research. But the incest in the story, I did not pick up on that until I was much older. I did not pick up on that as a kid. You know, I didn't realize that him talking to his mom in a weird way was anything strange until I got much older. And I didn't realize there was like this Oedipal complex. But one more thing I actually wanted to say about the title of Back to the Future. Do you know what the original? So the producer of the movie was Steven Spielberg. The head of the studio was a guy named Sid Sheinberg. And Sid Sheinberg let them do whatever they wanted with this movie. But he had one note, Adam, the whole time. He had one note. His one note was he did not like the title of the movie. He did not like the name Back to the Future. He said the same thing you did. It makes no sense. How do you go back to the future? It doesn't make any sense. So his one note that he sent down to Steven Spielberg and Robert Zemeckis for the movie was, I don't like the title. And he said, I have the perfect title for this movie. The perfect title for this movie is Spaceman from Pluto. That's what he wanted to name the movie. Because when Marty McFly goes back to 1955, there's a comic book that says Zombie Men from Pluto or something like that. Space Zombies from Pluto was the name of the comic book one of the kids had. So he said the perfect name of the movie would be Spaceman from Pluto. And Steven Spielberg was like, what the hell? He's giving us no notes. The only notes that he's given us is that he doesn't like the title of the movie. So he actually sent a note back saying, hey, Sid, we appreciate your joke. It made all of our mornings. And then he never heard about it again. But what's funny is there's a new movie coming out with Jack Black. I think it's called The House with the Clock in Its Walls, I think is the name of the movie. And in the trailer, there's a scene where there's a car pulling up to a movie theater. And if you look on the marquee of the movie theater, it says playing in the cinema that night is Spaceman from Pluto, which is an allusion to Back to the Future. So I always like telling that story. I think it's a cool kind of Easter egg there.
Well, Jack Black's film needs to be renamed The Film with the Empty Cinemas because that looks awful, that Clock's film.
I like Jumanji, though. Jumanji was good. Did you not like Jumanji?
No, Jumanji was brilliant, which actually brings me to my next and final question of this short interview. With them making sequels all these years later of like Jumanji 2, The Rock's doing Big Trouble in Little China 2. There was Independence Day 2 made 20 years later. What do you think about the rumors and the talk of Back to the Future 4?
So I know I've heard it a lot. I think that, Robert Zemeckis, who directed the movie, and Bob Gale, who wrote the movie, said that there would never be a Back to the Future 4. Actually, to the premiere of Back to the Future 3, they wore shirts that said Back to the Future 4 and had a big cross through it, meaning like this is never going to happen. But inevitably, I think we're going to have another Back to the Future movie. I think it's probably going to be within the next decade. And I think that it's going to be a complete reboot. It's not going to have the original characters in it at all. It's not going to be like that awful Ghostbusters movie that was remade. I think that they're going to do it, and I'm okay with it. For a long time, I was kind of on the side that I don't want to see another Back to the Future movie. I don't want you to ruin my franchise. But at the end of the day, if we can get more Back to the Future, whether it's good, if it's good, that's awesome. I love that we would have another good Back to the Future movie. If it's bad, I still got my original 3 movies, and I never have to revisit that one. The same way with Ghostbusters. I just watched Ghostbusters 1. Sometimes I watch 2. I don't even pay attention to that, the remake that came out a couple of years ago. So if they make another one, which I think they will, I'll watch it. I'll support it. If it's awesome, I'll sing from the mountaintops about it. If it's awful, I'll never watch it again.
And just as we were speaking there was this announced that Vince McMahon and WWE Studios has just greenlit Spaceman from Pluto 2.
Yes. Now this is something. Now where's the casting call? I want to be in Spaceman from Pluto. That's what I want to be in. But I appreciate you for having me on to talk about Back to the Future. Season 5 of my podcast drops October 21st. and it's actually going to debut with a trivia challenge to declare the first ever Back to the Future trivia champion of the world. It's going to be me versus a man named Frank Janish, and it's going to be on video. It's going to be on Collider Podcast Network, as well as the Back to the Future, the podcast feed, which you can get on bradjgilmore.com. And I'm really looking forward to it. We just had Claudia Wells, who played Jennifer Parker in Back to the Future 1 on the show a couple weeks ago, talking about some stuff she's got going on. So if you like the movies at all, or if you're a casual fan, you want to learn more, I've done 4 seasons of Back to the Future, the podcast, since 2015. Season 5 is going to drop in October. And, it's my favorite. I think it's the greatest trilogy of all time, bar none. I don't think there's a better trilogy that's more cohesive and enjoyable than Back to the Future 1 through 3. You can say maybe the first 3 Star Wars films. I think that's the closest. The first 3 indie films are good. I think that Temple of Doom has a drop-off in quality. So I think that Back to the Future, the first 3 of them, are most enjoyable, cohesive storytelling done over 3 movies that you'll find anywhere. So make sure you check out Back to the Future podcast at backtothefuturepod.com.
Thank you, Brad.